Settle down. Anybody wants to go to the toilet, go ahead now. All right, let him have it.
How lucky can one guy be? I kissed her and she kissed me. Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a very special evening dedicated to a very special lady, Jennifer L. Collins. We want to thank all of you in advance for your kind support and generosity, and now it's time for the main event. The first annual Rod Long Celebrity All-Star Roast, tonight honoring former Seahawk quarterback Dave Krieg. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet tonight's panel. From KJR 950 AM, please welcome sports talk show host Mike the Gasman Gastineau.
Be a lady tonight. Luck be a lady tonight.
I get too hungry for dinner at 8.
She's been a fixture of the Seahawk Nation since 1976. Please put your hands together and welcome Patti Mama Blue Hammond.
With people I hate, that's why the lady is a trash.
He's known as the Wicked Wit of the West. Please welcome PI sports columnist Art Teel.
Hey, that shark has pretty teeth, dear, and he shows them pearly white.
You've heard him mornings and evenings on sports talk radio throughout the Northwest. Please welcome New York Vinnie.
When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore.
He was not only a star linebacker at Stanford University, but also for the Seattle Seahawks. Please welcome Dave Wyman.
Keep your eye on the sparrow.
He is known as the Graz. From 950 KJR, please welcome sports talk show host Dave Grosby.
Mama, man of means by no means, king of the road.
He was the Seahawks center during the Dave Krieg era. Please welcome former Husky Blair Bush.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars, and let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars.
What kind of candy you want? Sweet.
He's the voice of the Seahawks, the Seafair Chevrolet Cup, Cairo TV anchorman, and former Seahawk wide receiver, Steve Raible.
Who can take a sunrise? Sprinkle it with you. Cover it with chocolate and a miracle to the candy man. Ooh, the candy man can.
Stepping out with my baby.
Your host for the evening has won both the Seattle Comedy Competition and Emerald City's Funniest Person Contest. Please put your hands together and welcome Rod Long.
Stepping out with my baby. Can't be bad to feel so good. Never felt quite so sunny that I keep on knocking wood.
Last but certainly not least, the man of the hour and future NFL Hall of Famer. Please put your hands together and welcome tonight's honoree, former Seahawk quarterback, Dave Krieg.
Everybody loves somebody sometime. Everybody falls in love somehow. Something in your kiss just told me my sometime is now.
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, all of you. At this point, what I'd like to do is welcome my very good friend, and he is the director of the Jennifer L. Collins Foundation. This man and I have gotten to know each other in a real big way since last September 11th when Jenny died. And I remember about 5 days before she died, I went to the hospital, and Mark was there, and it was the three of us, and I was on my way to Portland to work, and we were telling one of those Save Our Seahawks stories, like we used to tell for years. And she looked at both of us, and she said, "You boys need to come up with some new stories." This is a big chapter tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to introduce my friend, the director of the Jennifer L. Collins Foundation. Please welcome Mark Collins.
Thank you. Well, with all the planning that went into this event and all the production behind the scenes that Rod and I put together, the one thing I forgot to do was make a speech for tonight. So I'm gonna keep this very short. I want to thank you guys. I know it's a big undertaking to believe in a couple of clowns like Rod and I, to think that we don't have some other motivation other than trying to help people in the Northwest. And we're doing this to honor not only my wife, but all the cancer patients that are going through their same battles every day. My wife and I both saw a need during that time when she was fighting her battle. And it's the patient assistance programs that are so underfunded, and people, I didn't even know what a patient assistance program was until then. I mean, it's a bag of groceries, it's a copay, it's a parking pass, it's the little things so these people can focus on their battles and hopefully defeat that battle. My wife was focused right to the very end. I mean, the day before she died, she said, I'm coming home this week. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but to keep her spirit alive, we've started the Jen L. Collins Foundation, and I have big goals for this foundation. Obviously, you see tonight was pretty big. A lot of people told us we couldn't do it, and the more people told us we couldn't do it, the more Rod and I said, we're gonna do it. And it's a big step. It's a step in the right direction. We want to have fun tonight. Dave Krieg, I can't thank him enough. When we first called him, he says, "Are you crazy?" I said, "You want to roast me?" He says, "I'll give you money just to roast somebody else."
I'm not that cheap.
But before I turn the night over to Rod, this was Rod's dream, along with I think Commando Dave. Are you in the house? Commando Dave, along with Rod, first dreamed this up about 1.5 years ago. Actually, Dean Martin and the guys really dreamed it up many years ago. It's a night of fun. But we also want to educate what our cause is. But before we do that, for years since Save Our Seahawks, I've been introduced as the guy that stood in front of the semi-trucks. Granted, yes, I started Save Our Seahawks, but I like to think of myself as smarter than to stand in front of a semi-truck. And I can prove it to you. Now, if you look over in the big screens, you're going to see the semi-trucks that are pulling away. There's a guy there with a cowboy hat. And because I've been known to wear cowboy hats, and I play in a country band, I've been profiled to be that guy standing in front of that semi. That's not me. And you know why? That guy has a black hat on. I wear a white one. Thank you. Let's have fun.
Thank you, Mark. I hang out with him and he wears cowboy hats. He's still my friend. I go to the Red Hen. I'm the only brother every time I go to the Little Red Hen. Yes, lonely Negro night every time I'm up there at the Little Red Hen. You can't believe it, staring at a brother like I'm a lava lamp. Unbelievable, every time I walk in there. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got two doctors who are going to speak to us tonight about the need for cancer patient assistance programs. And our first doctor comes from the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance. Mark Stewart will be coming up here, ladies and gentlemen, for just a few minutes to tell you about the need for these cancer patient assistance programs. Please welcome Mark Stewart.
Well, thank you very much. This is a spectacular event, and we're very honored to be here representing the many patients who can benefit from the patient assistance plans that we're striving to support tonight. I'd like to thank Mark Collins for allowing us to be part of this event. We are truly grateful and inspired by Mark and his daughter Shakira for the support they've given the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance already. Last December, a few short months after he lost his wife, Jen, to lung cancer, Mark and Shakira honored Jen by giving a very generous donation to the SCCA, the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, that provides holiday meals and gifts to patients and families, as well as additional funds to the Patient and Family Assistance Program. As you know, cancer is a devastating diagnosis, but it's even more devastating when patients don't have the resources they need to provide for their families while they're receiving treatment. As Mark so eloquently described, it's really the little things that the Patient Assistance Program helps with, and of course some larger items as well. The Seattle Cancer Care Alliance, for those of you who don't know that entity, it's the merger of the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center, the University of Washington, and Children's Hospital here locally, their cancer programs. But we treat about 4,000 patients a year. We have about 450 bone marrow transplant patients a year that go into the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Program. This translates into thousands of patient visits a year. About 2/3 of our patients live outside the King County area, and about 1/3 live in the surrounding area here. About 50% of our bone marrow transplant patients come from outside Washington State, and that's because of the very world-famous Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Center program in transplant. Because many of these patients leave their home environment, they have great burdens. They have to keep up with their home mortgage and rent, their utilities, as Mark indicated, many other expenses in order to support their family members who are undergoing treatment. At any one time, we have about 250 out-of-town patients that receive cancer therapy at our institution, and about 1/3 of those are eligible to receive the assistance that the Patient Assistance Program provides. Of course, there are many residents here locally in the Seattle area that also are burdened by cancer and some of the financial hardships, daycare expenses, home care expenses, trying to keep up with the daily cost of living when one is out of work. All of those expenses add up, and patients are very appreciative of the support this program provides. So in summary, we deeply appreciate your caring, your generosity for our patients and their families. And of course, without individuals like Mark and yourselves, it would be difficult, if not impossible, for us to meet the needs of the patients and families that we care for. So again, on behalf of the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance and from the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank you for all of your support and for being here tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Stewart. Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I must just tell you, the next doctor I'm about to bring up, and we have only 2 doctors tonight, just 2 doctors. But Mark called me about the executive director of the Swedish Cancer Institute, and he said, I got an email, and the Swedish Cancer Institute is sending out a doctor by the name of Albert Einstein. And I said, let me guess, Alberteinstein. He goes, that's it. I said, well, to quote Scatman Crothers from the movie Silver Streak, shoot, that man's dead. I think we should all hold hands right now and have this clairvoyant moment, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I thought I got teased about my name, but Dr. Albert Einstein got teased a bunch in school about his name. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, from the Swedish Cancer Institute, please welcome Dr. Albert Einstein.
Thank you very much. Rod gave a nice introduction. I appreciate his humor. We're all here to have a great night tonight. a night of fellowship, a night of fun. Going to make fun of Dave Krieg. However, I remember watching him at football games in the old Kingdom, and we weren't making fun of him. We were sitting there cheering for him. And this was our man. So I'm glad he's our honoree tonight. But that's the fun side of what we're here about. What's the other side of it? How many in this room have either been told they have cancer or who have a loved one who have been told they've had cancer? There aren't many hands that are not raised. We're here for a very serious issue. And I know you go to a lot of fundraisers around the city and the region that raise funds for a variety of aspects of cancer. Cancer research is a very obvious need. Cancer care facilities at various institutions. Seattle is really fortunate because it has a number of great institutions that provide cancer care. We're lucky. Not many urban areas have that privilege. The point is, we're all there to take care of cancer patients. And sure, when the patient's told they had cancer, it's probably the most devastating thing they can be told in their life. And their life is suddenly very threatened. And they're worried about their disease, they're worried about their prognosis, they're worried about their treatment, they're worried about their family, their loved ones. And all that's very serious, and that consumes a large part of what they're thinking about. But in reality, in addition to all that, a lot of them are not as fortunate as the people in this room. I'm sure most of you have insurance. I'm sure most of you have a job. You probably have savings. You know, there are ways that you can cope. You got, sick leave at work. There are a lot of people that aren't as fortunate as you are. There are a lot of people that they live day to day from an income perspective. When they're told they have cancer and they have to take time off from work and get their treatment, they can't afford that in terms of continuing their daily lives. If you're a single mother with a couple of kids at home and you're a waitress in a restaurant and you're told you have breast cancer, you've got to get surgery, radiation therapy, chemotherapy, and by the way, you don't have any sick leave. How are you going to pay the car payment? How are you going to pay the telephone bill? How are you going to pay the rent? How are you going to pay the child care for your children? These are very real practical problems. These are very, very real to these people. And I know Mark sees it at the SCCA. We see it at Swedish. Other institutions in this area see it. And this is really an unrecognized need for resources. I had a recent discussion with people at the American Cancer Society. We're trying to decide what's the most unmet need of cancer patients. And when we talk to cancer patients, the biggest unmet need is all these resources needed for their day-to-day life while they go through the cancer experience. So I'm very happy you're here tonight. I'm very happy you're here to really support these people. This is a very much unmet need. And I'm really happy that Mark has formed this foundation and has made this the goal of this foundation. We need it. I appreciate it. And Swedish Cancer Institute is going to be very appreciative. But more important than that, our patients are going to be very appreciative. Thank you very much.
That was Dr. Albert Einstein, ladies and gentlemen. I got to tell you, I'm just so happy he didn't have a bushy mustache and a nappy head, because they'd have carried me out of here on a gurney right now. I just wouldn't have been able to continue. Very difficult. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, hope you're enjoying your salads. By the way, give yourselves a round of applause for caring and showing up tonight. Mean that. Mean that. Thank you, all of you. Mark and I, the foundation, we all thank you. I wanted to, before you get started with your dinner, I wanted to give a special shout out to Dick McMillan. He's known as Mac from the Ballard Tuck Shop. He got most of us, he got most of this panel. Yes, he got most of us suited and booted this evening. Our Teel had his own suit, but everybody else suited and booted, courtesy of Mac. And he's over there. Thank you, Mac. Shamelessly take another bow, man. Mac's in the back of the room. Thank you, Mac. Over there in Ballard, man, for years I had a buddy with an African import business in Ballard. Imagine African imports in predominantly Scandinavian Ballard. Very unusual storefront. There's a shrunken head with a lutefisk in its mouth. Neon sign behind it says, Ufda Dashiki. Enjoy your dinner. We'll see you in about 20 minutes. Thank you. And now, by the way, we must officially begin the main event, the roast part of the evening. And we want to do this. These guys are chomping at the bit. Our first roaster of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, he was the Seahawks deep threat. He graduated from Georgia Tech the same year I graduated from Seattle University. That was many years ago. We won't talk about that right now. He's the voice of the Seafair Chevrolet Cup. He's the voice of the Seahawks. I do the PI Sports Star of the Year banquet with him every year. He's my friend, and he is Steve Raible. Please welcome Steve Raible.
Didn't even throw you under the bus. Nothing. Didn't throw you under the bus, nothing.
I tell you what, pick up tonight's program and take a look 1, 2, 3, 4 pages in. You'll see two guys, one over the other from KJR. Right off the sex offender list here in King County. Take a look at these pictures. Huh? Look at that. Guys that need to register right here in this book.
Profile would have been better. You should have used my profile shot.
Listen, this is really a damned inconvenience to be here tonight because I've got a newscast to do here in just a few minutes. But I'm very happy to be here tonight. And besides that, this is fulfilling part of the community service part of my sentence. So it's another reason that it's nice to be here. To roast former teammate, friend, Seahawks Ring of Honor member, Dave Krieg. That's right. Dave Krieg is a modest man, and with good reason. How many Dave Kriegs does it take to change a light bulb? 2. 1, to ask Sam Adkins if the bulb is out, and should I replace it or shouldn't I replace it? Gary, you know what I'm talking about? And the other to remind everyone that Dave was an undrafted free agent from tiny Milton College, a school that doesn't even exist anymore, who played 19 seasons in the damned NFL, guiding the Seahawks to playoff appearances, and he never got the respect he deserved. That's why it takes 2 people. You know, Dave didn't start out as a big star that you see sitting up here tonight. No, he didn't. I remember, and Gary, you were on that plane, you probably remember this too. His rookie season in 1980. We played a game, of course, Dave didn't play. Back in Cleveland, and of course I was standing next to him for much of the game. In fact, I think we were both drinking at the time.
On the sideline.
Yeah. So we're coming back from Cleveland on this plane after that. And it was a great win, Seahawk win, and of course it was Largent and Zorn, and they did it all they always did. Still get credit for it to this day. They get credit for winning the NFC Championship a couple years ago. Did you know that? Zorn and Largent still get credit for that. They haven't played in 22 years. They still get credit for it. So we're coming back from Cleveland. And Dave is a rookie. And as Steve always used to say, Largent always used to say, you can always tell a rookie, you just can't tell him much. And he was a rookie, and he was green, and you could tell. But he tried. He wanted to be a part of the group. So he came up and sat, you know, the veteran sat up in front on our plane. And he came up and sat next to me on this plane trip home after beating Cleveland. And he's talking to other veterans, and he's just really living the high life up there. And we're not 15, you remember this, Gary? We're not 15 minutes out of Cleveland. And the pilot came on, and he said, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, guys, congratulations, great win. I wanted to come on and tell you we're having a bit of engine problems. We 3 engines on this fabulous Boeing aircraft, but we're having a bit of a problem with 1 engine, so we want to shut it down. It's no problem. This is a fabulously engineered aircraft. The only reason I tell you this is we're probably going to be about 35 minutes late arriving in Seattle, but you guys go ahead and continue to celebrate the great win in Cleveland. Fine, we continue to talk. Dave is just having a great time. 40 minutes after that, the pilot comes back on again. He says, ladies and gentlemen, in my 25 years as a captain with Alaska Airlines, I've never had this happen, but it seems that engine number 2 has, I don't know if we sucked in a bird or if there's an oil problem, but I've had to shut down engine number 2. Now, the only reason I say that is because this plane will just fly perfectly on one engine, but the problem is we could be about an hour and a half late arriving now in Seattle because we're down 2 engines. And at that point, it was like a light bulb came on in Dave Krieg, and he looked at me and he grabbed my arm and he said, Raves, if we lose that other engine, we could be up here all night. Honest to God, I've been using that since 1978, and it still works. It still works. I'm looking up and down the dais here. I'm trying not to, but I'm looking up and down the dais here, and I know I'm saying the same thing to myself that all of you are saying. Couldn't there be any more big names besides Raible? And
besides Raible?
Huh?
Besides Raible?
Well, yeah. For instance, my dear friend Art Thiel is here. Art originally scheduled tonight to be here on videotape. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond our control, he's here in person.
You'll regret it.
I know I will, but I'll be gone.
Sooner than you think.
Soon as I'm done, the news calls, baby.
Don't turn your back.
Dave Grosby, our great friend, great radio talent, great voice of sports in this community. Dave Grosby, great wife, sitting right over here, lovely lady. Dave Grosby is living proof that fame and money can't buy a rented tux that fits.
Glad McMillan's gone.
That's right. Mike Gastineau is here as well, his partner on KGR Radio. Interesting. I don't want to say he's exciting. He is the charisma consultant to Dick Cheney. That much I know. But after that, I'm not so sure. And of course, when the list of comedians is read, that long list of great comedians is read, Rod Long will be sitting out there in the audience with the rest of you listening to the list. But listen, enough of all this. To alter a phrase that probably many of you grew up learning, you memorized, I'm going to alter it just a bit. I have come not to bury Caesar, but to praise him. Dave, that's a quotation. Based on Shakespeare's writings. Shakespeare, he was an author. That's somebody who writes a book, Dave. A book is something that has lots of pages in it. Dave Wyman, it's something that you color in. But other than that, tonight really isn't about all of us up here. And really, it's not about Dave either. It's just a great excuse to get together and raise money for a wonderful cause. But I will say this, that Dave Krieg is somebody that I admire. I really do. I'd never tell him this to his face, and I'm not going to look at him now when I tell him this. But I do. I admire Dave. Dave Krieg came to Seattle undrafted, unscouted, unwanted by every other team in the National Football League. No, seriously. That's true. That's right. That's true.
It's still true.
And thank you for screaming, sir. He appreciates that very much. We rode Dave Krieg unmercifully his rookie year. We nicknamed him Mudbone. He struggled to learn the offense. He had a coach write on his test one time that Dave took before a game, how can I ever put you in if you don't know the offense any better than this? And after that, he went back to his room and cried. Truly.
That was not my 8th year in the league.
And then Dave Krieg proceeded to show everybody just who he was. He led the Seahawks to their first ever playoff appearance, very nearly to the Super Bowl in his very first season as a starter. He played 12 seasons in Seattle, 19 professional seasons in all. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler, this kid from Milton College. He was the ultimate underdog, the quintessential gym rat, the all-American success story. And that he would come here tonight and have all of us poke a little bit of fun at him at his expense for such a worthwhile cause as the Jennifer Collins Memorial Foundation speaks to his dedication and his selflessness as a person. That's why I admire Dave Krieg. That's why he's a good friend, and that's why he's here tonight to join all of you and to be whatever you guys are going to do to him, and I'm sure it's going to be much worse than I could possibly do.
Promise.
Yes, it is. It's a promise from Dave. That's why he's here tonight, and I'm just so proud of him and proud that he's lent his name to this, and Mark Collins, what you have done, and Rod, to put this together. Congratulations. As you said earlier, you did it when people said you couldn't do it, and Jen is upstairs right now smiling down very, very proudly on you. Thanks very much, everybody. I appreciate you having me here.
I'm going to do the news with him one of these nights. I'm going to sit right on his lap and do the news. Right with you, man. You know that. Hey, have another drink and shut up back there. I feel like I'm in a club right now. Our next roaster this evening, ladies and gentlemen, he's known as the Wicked Wit of the West. He's one of my favorite guys to read in terms of sports columnists in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, please welcome Art Teel.
Look at the coward to my right, sneaking out of here. Steve, I just wanted to say one thing. If I'd have known that suit would have looked that good fixed up, I'd have never given it away. Well done, yeah. I'm really honored to be here tonight. I'm one of those people who've had a chance to chronicle this man's career. As a matter of fact, I remember writing in the pages of the PI, what the Seahawks really need is an undrafted 6'1" quarterback with small hands from a dead college. I'm really thrilled to be here honoring Dave Krieg, excuse me. Saying Dave was an unlikely candidate to lead an NFL team is like saying that Sanjaya was an unlikely candidate to lead Led Zeppelin. Many of you don't know this, and this is a true story, and all of these things I'm saying are true because I'm a journalist. The first airplane flight that this man ever took was after college to come out here to try out for the Seahawks. True? See? Nod your head, Dave. Good. His first year, the NFL made him wear hunter orange because they didn't want him to be shot because he looked like a deer in headlights. And yet here he is today. This is remarkable. This man, to my right, the leader, all-time leader in passing attempts, passing completions, yardage, and touchdowns in Seahawk history. In fact, if you look up in the NFL record book under the category of career passing yardage, it's led by Dan Marino, Brett Favre, John Elway. And you look at the list at number 11, which is just after Joe Montana and Johnny Unitas, and just before Boomer Esiason, you will see the name Little Davy Krieg. It's like discovering that George W. Bush is president, and you say to yourself, how the hell did that happen? Actually, I knew all along that Dave really had the stuff to make it in the NFL. He doesn't know this, but the first time I met Dave, or actually I didn't really meet him, I sort of encountered him, was at an old Seahawks hangout, the Denny's along 520 in Kirkland. This is where the Seahawks hung out. This was back in the day before they were millionaire athletes and actually tried to get people to buy them breakfast over there. But Dave sat at a booth, had a styrofoam cup, and would spit his tobacco juice into it, as he was wont to do that day. And the patrons near him were so grossed out, they asked the waitress to say something. And I knew then, as Dave was thrown out of a Denny's, that he was something special. There was another time I encountered Dave, and this was on a Seahawks road trip. He was a starter by then and a star. I can't use quotes here, but let's put star in quotes. He was so big that he invited a number of his homies from Wisconsin to come out and celebrate his success. And of course, they were in the bar on the Saturday night of the road trip, drinking it up in the hotel bar. But the problem was that the Seahawks had a road trip rule: no hanging out in the hotel bar. Clearly, they knew they would offend all the other patrons. But I came down there and I saw Dave. This was one of those hotel lobby bars where it's sort of walled off from the main lobby. And I came down there and I saw Dave. All his friends were inside. They were all joking and howling and doing all the things that Wisconsin mill workers do. And Dave stood on the other side of the wall and was yucking and drinking and carrying on in the lobby portion of the bar, looking through the window. And nobody ever busted him for it. And I said, a guy with this kind of resourcefulness is going to have a very long and healthy career in the NFL. But enough about Dave's triumphs. We're here to talk failure. To my right is the second greatest fumbler in NFL history. You can tell that because the hotel has given him plastic utensils and a paper plate. Our dear friend Warren Moon is actually the #1 fumbler in NFL history. Bet they didn't bring that up at the Hall of Fame induction, huh? Moon had 161 fumbles, and it was a real effort for him to beat the king of oops here with 153. Dave retired in '98, and Moon made it to 2000. And I just was imagining Dave retired at home, watching Warren Moon in his last couple of years at Kansas City, sitting there in front of the TV saying, "Hit him, knock that ball loose." And I understand that quarterbacks are going to fumble. They're going to get hit. They're going to, there are a lot of things that go on in a game that are not attributable to the quarterback, although sports writers certainly like to blame him. And really, the thing about Dave is he's also #2 in fumbles recovered, so you got to give him some credit for that. But my conclusion was that Dave had the smallest hands of a quarterback in NFL history, or the Seahawks inflated the ball too much. In 1989, Dave dropped the ball 6 times in a game in Kansas City. That was the year he set the single-season NFL record for fumbles. And that was with 18. Thank you very much. In 1990 against San Diego, he dropped it 5 times. But there was this game in 1983 in which Dave somehow managed to win a game against the Denver Broncos despite throwing 4 interceptions and having 3 fumbles lost. They won the game, and I said right then, this man has won the NFL Comeback Player of the Year award in 1 game.
Anybody can do it easy.
But there is, a real plausible explanation, and of course I would have to attribute some of this credit goes to Blair Bush, a center right here, one of Dave's guardians. Dave Krieg was sacked 341 times. He spent more time on his back professionally than Heidi Fleiss. And with a similar number of different men on him, I might add. Yes, you get the last shot on this. So, anyway, I do want to thank Dave for coming up here because really what this amounts to is Dave's 342nd sack. And if there's ever anybody who can't take another hit, it's Dave Krieg. But I do want to give him a hand for doing what he can for Mark and Jennifer Collins because this guy doesn't need this abuse. He's had a lifetime of it already. Thank you, Dave.
Hey, that was our Teel. We're going to keep this evening's festivities going with our next roaster. And you've heard him in the mornings on the radio. You've heard him in the evenings on the radio. And tonight you'll hear him like perhaps you've never heard him before. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome New York Vinnie.
Oh, Lord. Okay, Vinny.
Vinny, New York in the house.
Hi, everybody. How are you? This is what unemployed people do on Tuesday night. No, in case you might not have heard, they let me go at Cairo a couple of weeks ago. And it's very interesting story, and this will test to the power of Dave Krieg. I go on vacation, and I come back from vacation. I go into my boss, and I say, "Boss, I need Tuesday night off because I got to go see Dave Krieg, and I got to be at a roast." He says, "You're going to see Dave Krieg at a roast?" He says, "I wouldn't just give you Tuesday night off. I give you Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, the next week, the next week, the next week, and the next week." That's power, baby. That's when you know the guy is doing good. You know, I would love to come up here and stand up here, and I'm sure that there are other people who have been here longer than I have and will talk eloquently about Dave's playing days. My experience with Dave really goes much more into the interviewing side of things, and having had Dave on the huddle for a bunch of times and talked to him over the years, just kind of on the air, which probably, I don't know if that's good. Did that spare me something from having to see him play? Because we didn't get the Seahawks back in New York on TV. I mean, that came on like, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night. It's not an East Coast bias. It's just an East Coast idiocy. We don't see them. Now, we don't see the Seahawks. I didn't know there were Seahawks until I got out here. I got to San Francisco. They said, "Yeah, there's a team up there." I said, "Up where?" They said, "Up there." What? What's the name of the team? Seahawks. See what? The hell is a Seahawk? You know, a kid from New York. I've never seen a Seahawk. I mean, we shoot things to the Hawks in New York. You know, you see little birds going around. As a matter of fact, I had an uncle who used to serve something like that in his restaurant in Brooklyn. I don't know exactly what it was. But no. I get out here and say, no. You got to talk to Dave because Dave Krieg is the man. You got to remember, I get up here in 1993. And Dan McGuire, that's the one without the steroids. Matter of fact, we would have taken up in a collection to give this guy steroids. He's the quarterback. They got this guy, Dan McGuire. His big contribution is taking boxing lessons to be a better, like dancing boxing lessons. That's his big contribution. Meanwhile, I get up here, I think I'm going to see Dave Krieg. They're telling me, "Oh, no, you're going to love this guy." I'm in San Francisco before I come up here. You're going to love Dave. Oh, great guy. I never get to meet the guy. All of a sudden, he's out of here. That's it, boom, boom, boom. They got Dan McGuire and Rick Meyer. I think in those days, the Berings wanted to have quarterbacks whose names rhyme so they wouldn't forget, you know. Yeah, Stauffer rhymes with Meyer, I think, somehow. I don't know. All right, screw my joke up, all right? So finally, we get, as time goes on, I come over and host the huddle with Dave Wyman, and Dave Wyman says, "Hey, you know what? I know Dave, let's get him on. Let's get him on a few times." And we get him on the show, and we're talking to him. And one of the funniest guys, one of the most humblest guys you'll ever you ever want to talk to on an interview, doing an interview. You're having fun with the guy, and he's talking. And meanwhile, the funny thing is while I'm talking to him, Wyman's in the studio, and he's going, "Don't believe a word he says." And I'm supposed to say, "I don't know, that didn't really happen." And he wants me to he's like over there saying, and Wyman's giving me like the play-by-play here about Craig's career, saying, Just pump them up. Mention Milton College a couple of times. I says, Milton College? The hell is Milton College? And then I go to look it up on the internet, and you can't even Google the damn thing. I mean, it's not there. So finally, I figured it out. Wyman tells me he's really in the witness protection program. That's actually what's happened with Dave Krieg. He's in the witness protection program, where I'll be starting probably tomorrow if things don't work out. No, it's a great thing to come up and honor Dave Krieg, but it's even greater to be able to stand up here and join you with guys like my good friend Mike Gastineau and Dave Grosby, Graz and Gas, who do a great job on, what's the name of that station again? Oh, I can say it now, KJR. Yeah. I remember that place. And to see Mr. Teel up here. You know, Thiel, I don't know if you ever seen him in a locker room, but he's the guy that Ichiro, remember Ichiro first came in and said they had the $1 million if somebody could take a picture of his nuts? Thiel was the only guy in the locker room with the camera. He almost made the $1 million. He didn't turn the picture in, though, I understand.
And your problem is?
And to be with Wyman and everybody else up here, and especially, I said nuts and Mama Blues up here. Oh, Lord. The funny thing is I'm over there drinking a cocktail before, and I'm saying I can't drink too much. My doctor tells me because I may pass out. I may go out of the picture, and I'm saying to myself, I better not drink too much because I'm looking at my options for artificial, artificial respiration where they put the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and I'm looking at Mama Blue and Graz, and I'm going, Lord, no. That's it. It's my last night of my life if I go out of the picture.
There's your choice.
Well, listen, this is a great event. Mark, Rod, I gotta tell you guys, man, this has been just a pleasure to be up here and to see all these people for a first event in Seattle. Look at this. I mean, we do these things all the time. We were commenting up here. Look at this group of people here. I see Governor Lowry down here, former Governor Lowry sitting right down here right now. How you doing, Governor? Hey, is there a politician with some goons in this state that can save the Sonics like you did with the Mariners? Can we just get somebody to stand up and save the damn Sonics? Poor guy was giving away, the guy from the Sonics was giving away 4 courtside seats and also 4 one-way tickets to Oklahoma City with them. Come on, stand up, let's keep them here. Anyway, thank you so much for having me. I will, our business, athletics, radio, media, it's like the mafia. It really is. I mean, it's so analogous because one day you're going to get whacked. And you never know who it's going to be. It's always going to be somebody that you trust. It's one of your friends. And after a few years, you'll either wind up coming back or go into the witness protection program and getting lousy tomato sauce somewhere in Phoenix, Arizona. By the way, in the back of the audience, Henry Hill, ladies and gentlemen. Henry Hill. Hey, enjoy yourselves. Have a good night. Thank you for coming. And please throw $5 in the bucket on the way out the door for my unemployment fund. Thank you.
All right, Vinny.
Hey, that's New York Vinnie. That's New York Vinnie. You know what, ladies and gentlemen? Let me just say that we have tables tonight for all of the professional sports teams. We want to especially thank, first of all, the Seattle Seahawks for their support. And they have a table here this evening. We thank you so much. All of the Seattle Seahawks front office executives, all of you, thanks so much for being here. We have Sonics, and we also have a table of the Mariners, who, as we all are sitting here tonight, are perhaps a game and a half, perhaps more ahead in the wild card chase. Okay? And the Mariners won tonight 7-2, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for saying that. You know, who would have thought this? Who would have thought that this baseball team on the 21st of August of 2007 would be right in the pennant race? None of us would have believed this, and not even our former manager, Mike Hargrove, who in the middle of a 7-game winning streak said, I can't take this no more. I can't sleep at night. They winning games they shouldn't be winning. I need a red flatbed truck loaded with antidepressant meds. I got to get out of here right now. We're going to keep this thing going, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to bring to the podium the other half of the Gas and Graz team, ladies and gentlemen, from KGR 950 AM. They call him the Gas Man. He's my favorite Hoosier. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mike Gastineau.
All right. First things first, vodka soda stage right, please. Anybody else? Dave, yeah, what a shock.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to start my remarks with a few words about a man who arrived many years ago from the great state of Wisconsin, brought with him class, style, a winning attitude, and took the Seahawks to levels that none of us thought they could get to. And Mike Holmgren isn't here tonight, so I guess we'll spend the evening talking about Dave Krieg instead. Dave went to Milton College, in case you didn't know. You've heard of Ivy League schools. Milton College was an alfalfa league school out there in the Midwest. Dave loved the school. He loved college life. He pledged Sigma Chi Havarti his freshman year. I love that. We all know about cheeseheads, right? Milton College is loaded. A cheesehead at Milton College is something you're hoping for at the end of the big party.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, somebody had to kick this party into gear. I'm sorry.
I'm all for that. Good job, Gas.
You may not know it, but after the campus was unfortunately bulldozed, a tavern opened up right there where Milton College once stood. And in honor of their most famous alum, they serve a cocktail called the Dave Krieg. And it's a double vodka martini, and the bartender always sets it on the bar at such an angle that the olive goes flying out of it and rolls on the floor. Of course, Dave, or David, as Steve Raible insists on calling him, keeps himself busy with a variety of new business opportunities now that he's retired. His latest thing, he's involved actually in a ticket scalping racket with Mike Tice, and that's worked out really well for him. It's been a good thing. As long as we're up here tonight, and I'd like to do this in the spirit of the true old Dean Martin roast and kind of introduce everybody here who's up here. Take a look at just the distinguished, sensational members on this panel. All right, let's talk about the people who are here. We'll start with my good friend Art Thiel. Art Thiel is here, ladies and gentlemen. Art Thiel, let's hear it, huh? Art's appearance here means one thing, and that's Steve Kelly was busy. Art's a proud alum of PLU or UPS or the Tacoma Academy of Bartending. It's one of those schools down there in the city of Destiny. I can't remember which one. Art majored in punctuation, and you can see he's done a lot with his career. Art also has the privilege of being the sportscaster for the wildly popular Robin and Maynard show, which means that Art has been fired at every radio station in the Puget Sound during his career. So congratulations to him for that.
Quite an honor. Way to go, Art.
Let's hear it for Mama Blue, who is here tonight. Mama Blue. Best thing about Mama Blue being here is New York Vinnie has a date for after the show. No, now let's be honest. Mama Blue's a wonderful lady. I mean, she embodies everything that the NFL loves in its fans. Namely, she's completely and totally out of her mind. And the NFL loves that in its fans. You know, I don't want to go too much further. I can't say anything too much more about Mama Blue for a couple of reasons. First of all, if I wanted to insult a woman tonight, I would have just stayed home with my wife.
Oh, hey, ho, ho.
And second of all, as we all know, Mama Blue has seen every Seahawks game since 1976. Is that right? Every game? Missed one game. This woman has suffered enough, ladies and gentlemen. She needs no insults. And I don't know her that well, and I'm not going to insult a woman that I don't know. Now, I don't know Blair Bush either, but I'll insult the hell out of him. I really don't care. I was excited when I heard Blair Bush was coming here tonight because I had no idea that Dave Krieg had friends in the adult film industry. Maybe that's a different Blair Bush. I don't know. You know, let me take you behind the scenes. Fun at these events. It's so nice to be a part of them. I'm so honored. There was a touching moment in the men's room earlier tonight. Blair and Dave were standing looking at each other, and Blair said, "Come on, man. One more time for old time's sake." And he turned around and bent over, and Dave stuck his hands under his ass. It was beautiful. It was just beautiful. Blair is and I'm sure we have a few others in the room tonight, Blair's a proud, proud, proud Washington Husky. Let's hear it, Washington Huskies. Blair was a Husky back in the dog glory days, you know, the days of no-show jobs and students to take your tests and your own private wing at the King County Jail, the good old days for the Huskies. Steve Raible was here. You know, you talk about a bullshit joke. Here, flip it one page. Hey, Rabes, you have any picture taken after 1992 that you could send to the roast? Yeah, he's got a giant thing on the top of his head. It's kind of like where his hair used to be. Steve Raible, we really pulled out the stops on ex-teammates, didn't we? Whoa, we got some stars up here for you. I was looking at some info for Steve in preparation for tonight. You know, those NFL websites are incredible. I mean, you go to them and they give you a player's name and his college and his history in the league and his statistics, or in Steve's case, his statistic. And it's neat. It's fantastic. You can learn so many things. Now, you might think it's rare for a guy to go from the NFL to becoming a TV news anchor. But when you think about it, there's a common thread. I mean, Steve went from being injected by his teammates with steroids to being injected by Margot Myers with Botox. So it's really kind of the same thing. There was another touching pre-show moment tonight. Steve was out in the lobby talking to Dave, and Steve almost got misty-eyed. He started talking about all the great games they played in, and the road trips, and the camaraderie, and how much fun they had. And Dave finally said, "Hey, who are you again?" Dave Wyman is here with us. Let's hear it for Dave Wyman, great former Seahawk. Dave left the NFL after 9 years. He looks fantastic. He left the NFL after 9 years due to health reasons. His coaches were sick of him, and it's a shame, but he's okay now. Dave went on. He at one point had a great career with Merrill Lynch. As a matter of fact, he worked in the office where I do some of my business. And let me tell you something. Nothing made me sleep easier at night than knowing that the guy who was keeping an eye on my money got hit in the head so many times he thinks innuendo is Italian for preparation H. I slept like a baby. I mean, it was always great to get those calls from Dave. Hey, Mike, we've taken all the money out of your mutual funds and we've invested it in tin. Dave also moonlights as a talk show host. He does a football talk show over there at Cairo. Now, don't be embarrassed if you haven't heard it. Nobody else has either, but that's okay. It's a great show. Speaking of which, I guess I got to take that out. New York Vinnie is here. Vinny, the one guy who didn't have to clear his schedule to be here tonight. Let's hear it for New York Vinnie. Yeah, I remember the day Vinny left KJR. I mean, it's terrible. I mean, nobody likes to see anybody lose a job. And the day Vinny left KJR, there were tears. There was a lot of hugging. There was a lot of consoling. There was a lot of emotion. But eventually, the guys who ran the deli down on the first floor got over it, and they moved on, and everything was fine. Vinny's departure over at KJR was very meaningful. It had a lasting impact because we no longer have to change the Airwick air freshener in the men's room every week, so that's a nice thing. And Vinny actually, hey, don't let him kid you, he's got some future plans. Far West Taxi has hired him to teach the new taxi drivers how to be obnoxious New Yorkers. So that's going to work really well for Vinny. Finally, as we head into the home stretch here, mercifully, the Graz is in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Grosby. Could best be described as lukewarm applause. The Graz is in the house, and you know what that means? An unprecedented run on Absolute Vodka here at the Westin. They can't keep up. People ask me all the time, they say, Gas, what is it like to work with the Graz? I'm like, God, I don't have the foggiest idea. I mean, I can tell you what it's like to sit in a room and watch him do nothing every day for 2 hours. I got no idea what it's like to actually work with the guy. Your guess is as good as mine. You know, I came up with a better line for that. Working with Graz is kind of like a weekly nervous breakdown with a paycheck. So it works out okay. It's not bad. Rod Long is here tonight as your MC, the toughest job up here. Let's hear it. You know, see if I got this straight. I mean, we live in like the whitest city in America, and our best comedian is a black man named Rod Long. Rod Long. Sounds like somebody has compensation issues, if you ask me. I'm just saying. Rod's out on the dating scene now, and I know a woman that he went out with, and I kind of had the same thing. I said, Rod Long? And she says, no, more like Willie Short, but. You know, I was 21 years old, and my mom died after a 6-month, just vicious, ugly, nasty-ass battle with melanoma. And she was only 56, so she got ripped off, and I got ripped off, and our whole family did. But I thought to myself tonight, and actually a couple of weeks ago when I met with Mark and Rod, how lucky I was and how lucky my family was. You know, I never remember anything during that time of anyone saying we can't afford groceries, or we can't afford parking, or we can't afford just the little things that you need. And I know that's the backbone of what tonight's all about. And to be able to raise money for people who just need the little things taken care of when they're dealing with the biggest, nastiest thing in the world, it's really a thrill to be up here and hopefully to do something little to help out. And especially in that vein, I want to thank Dave Krieg. You know, we talk about pro sports in this town. And by the way, let me veer off for a second. I want to thank the Sonics for having a table here tonight. They're a big, easy target right now. But you know what? There's a group of people here tonight that want this team to stay here, and we want them to stay here. And we really thank you for being out here. It's fantastic that you're here supporting this tonight. It means so much. I know Slick Watts is with them, and my friend Brian Burns. And we can't let this team go. And we couldn't let the Seahawks go a long time ago. And this is one of the reasons why, because a guy like Dave Krieg, 4, 5, 6 times a year comes back up here and participates in charity events and helps raise money for numerous causes, some of which you hear about and some of which you don't. But that's why professional sports, among other reasons, is important to keep in a city, is because year after year after year it can give like it's giving back tonight. So I salute Dave Krieg, an original Seahawks hero, for being here tonight.
Thank you, Mike Gastineau. Thank you very much. And let me just tell you, I don't know about anybody else, but we are hot up here under these lights. Really hot. I'm up here sweating like Michael Vick at the premiere of the movie Underdog. Really, I'm sweating. I wrote that joke. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, from day one with the Seahawks, as a much younger woman as all of us were in 1976, much younger people, some of you were not here. Those of you who weren't here in 1976 probably have big thumbs from text messaging your friends all the time. What does it matter? What does it really matter? But she was here from the beginning, from all the games, the good times, the bad times. The good times when the Kingdom was loud enough that it sounded like a Grand Funk Railroad concert or NASCAR, the good times. The bad times when it was quiet enough to hear a rat piss on a cotton ball. It was like the last time I was in Coeur d'Alene doing a gig, you know. How obtuse can a black man be in northern Idaho? On a Wednesday night, ain't that a bitch? Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please put your hands together and welcome my good friend Patti, Mama Blue.
Did everything come out all right?
It was great.
Well, Dave, this is quite an honor. I'm just honored to be here with all you folks, and especially honor our friend that we're here for. But as you know, Dave, I've been talking with your mom the past couple months, and I wanted to get some inside scoop, you know, mother stuff. And I know that you came into this world as a whopper, 10 pounds. Your mom called you that. I guess you got nicknames all through your life. But anyway, I probably know more about your childhood than I need to know, but hey, before the National Enquirer calls, call me, okay? It's for sale. And then, And I know that when you were growing up, every Christmas, your favorite toy and your favorite gift was a new football. And living in Wisconsin, you know, it snowed and everything, and every time you took your little football out to play with your little buddy next door, you packed it away in a brown paper bag so it wouldn't snow on it. That's right. And your mother said you'd walk up and down the street with your brown paper bag just to see if anybody wanted to toss a football with you.
Kept it warm.
Yep, that's what he did. And then I also know that in high school, you also had another nickname, and it was Cobra. Your mom wasn't quite, that was in college, that's right. And she wasn't sure why. She said it was because you were fast, and then she took that back and said, no, you had a quick release, and I never asked her any more questions. Well, that's what moms do.
Oh, my God.
And it was that good?
Yes,
and then I remember.
Was it good for you?
Oh, yeah, it was great. And I remember when we used to go to Moses Lake for the Bass Bash. And you know, it was really something because Dave always caught the biggest fish, the most fish, and, you know, we just never could figure it out, and everybody was in awe until we found out that Brian Millard was in the boat ahead of him stocking the lake.
Good lineman.
Yeah. And then, a few years back when I had the privilege of keeping score for you at Snoqualmie Ridge when you were doing one of your tournaments, you actually weren't playing up to par that day, so they finally decided to blindfold you. And by gosh, you know, he hit that ball 60 yards, just 10 feet from the pole. And I'm just wondering, where in the heck were those blindfolds when we were in the Kingdom, you know? You know what, you could have put a whole new perspective on West Coast offense there, you know? And then, of course, there's always, my theory, there's three kinds of people in this world. People that make things happen, people that watch things happen, and people that just stand around and go, what happened? But as you know, we know you're a happening guy. So, to make you feel at home, how about it, folks? Can we give a little wave for Dave?
Mama Blue.
Okay. On the count of three, start at that end. 1, 2, 3. Go it! Dave! Woo! Welcome home, Dave. And you know what? If you ever just... Hey, how about another wave for Jennifer? 1, 2, 3. Go, Jennifer! Woo! And not to be forgotten, we got to give one to Mark Collins, too. So another time. 1, 2, 3. Go, Mark. Woo! I love doing this, you know. I couldn't come without my pom-poms, but I thought if you ever decided to, decide to go in another field, how about an Elvis impersonator? Because you got it. Woo!
All right, sweetheart. Thank you very much. Love you, too.
Thank you, Mama Blue. Thank you so much, Mama Blue. You know what, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a couple of special guests in the audience. We actually have many special guests. Governor Mike Lowry was mentioned earlier, and Mike, we thank you so much for coming down tonight. Yes, very much. And I got to just tell you, I was on KMPS. Imagine a black man. Yes, KMPS is right there. Apparently, I upset many Seattle police officers because I mentioned on the radio yesterday morning that for you people who are drinking and insist on driving home, that the Westin Hotel concierge desk will provide you with free Blue Bear decals for the back of your car. The nerve of my black ass again to tell the truth and make it funny. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, life in Mayberry with skyscrapers goes on and on and on and on. But we have a couple of special guests in the audience who I'd like to acknowledge right now. And first and foremost is all the way from Austin, Texas. He's living in Austin, Texas right now. He says he's raising his kids. He was on the line with Blair Bush. They were part of Dave Krieg being sacked over 300 times. Brian Millard is in the house. Brian. I want to go out and just get a few minutes from Brian Millard, if you don't mind. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. All right, a big Texas Longhorn man. You're down there living in Austin right now. What do you remember most about Dave Krieg?
Well, I have a quick question to ask Mama Blue. Thank you very much for the story about Dave. How many bags did they go through when he dropped those bags from the house to the park? Him carrying that football. Did you drop the bag all the time? Is that where you learned it, Dave?
That is where I learned it. Yeah, that's right. Okay. But I wasn't getting hit as much then. And
no, that's fine. That's fine. If you were a faster runner, you probably wouldn't have got hit as much as you did. But hey, there's a big thing about people giving gifts, skill position, quarterback, running backs, giving offensive linemen or people gifts. Kurt Warner, 1986 AFC Russian champion, gave us all beautiful Rolex watches. I was fortunate enough to block for Herschel Walker back in the old USFL. He gave us nice gold stuff. Let me think just a second. Dave came in one day, and I mean, he bought a lot of beer. There's no question about that. There was a lot of beer purchased by that guy. And for that, I'm wholeheartedly grateful. Dave came in one day with a box. Now, this is back in the 80s when... do you remember Zuba pants? And they had you know what I'm talking about, don't you? You know, exactly. and they had a little band on the thing and huh? You remember them, PJ, don't you? You got them. Dave came in with a box, and he started with the oldest guy first. And he goes, "Okay, thanks for doing a great job. You get to pick first." And we got a little pair of pants. Thanks, Dave.
There's a perfectly logical explanation for that. You mentioned Herschel Walker, and of course he was a high draft choice, got paid a lot of money. You mentioned Kurt Warner, #1 draft choice, got paid a lot of money. You were a draft choice. I don't know how many Pro Bowls you went to. I know I went to 3. How many did you? Oh, that's all right. But I did get a signing bonus of $500, $365.85 for Texas. So the free Zubas, if it's free, it's me. You go by that one. Yeah.
Thanks for letting me come. Thanks for, pal, I appreciate it, and I'd do it all again.
Thank you, Brian Millard. Ladies and gentlemen, Brian Millard.
Y'all got to appreciate this. This man just flew up from Texas because he knew it was going to be like, not sure how this thing was going to turn out. He flew all the way from Texas to come up here and do that. So I know it's a roast, but you got to admire somebody to fly all the way up there from that. Some guys I know couldn't even take a taxi over here that live in Seattle, but I appreciate that, Brian.
All the way from Texas, man. I've been in Texas before. It's so flat you can watch a dog leave the house 3 or 4 days and still come back home. I love that, man. Who? What? Watch myself. Texas is what? Yeah, so is Cleellum. Shut up. Don't you start with me. Don't even try it, dog. I'm a trained professional. Don't try this at home. I will fly fish my Johnson off your forehead. Don't try that. Swear to God, don't start with me. I haven't smoked a cigarette in 11 days. I will put my peenie in your left ear. Don't you start with me. That ain't for FSN, is it? All right, good. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, peenie. Relax, man. You from Wisconsin. You know what a peenie is. Relax. He sat next to me all night. He's a former Husky. I met him yesterday at the Rumble at the Ridge. He was the Husky center. Then he was the Seahawk center. He's my dinner buddy. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Blair Bush.
I'm not a professional, I'm an amateur, and you probably recognize a lot of other people up here are too. I was thinking about a couple things about Dave a couple weeks ago when they asked me to be involved, and first thing that came to mind was Dave was a hell of a quarterback. I mean, he was the kind of guy that people wanted to follow. Tough guy, would compete, and it came to mind that didn't put it together before, but Chuck Knox obviously felt the same way, because after I'd cover punts and come off to the sideline after the offense was already there, I could overhear some things that he was talking to the coordinator about. And he said, yeah, he's playing like hell. What do you think we ought to do? But I didn't put it together, but he agreed with us, yeah. And then I played in Cincinnati for 5 years before I was traded out to Seattle. And it was kind of an interesting time, first coming into training camp, because there was this ball boy that had a helmet on and shoulder pads with kind of a funny Dutch boy, Jack Sigma type haircut. First thing I thought it was a ball boy, and then I kind of figured out that he wasn't. And then I figured he had to be a Nordstrom kid, because no, I mean, why else would they let a high school kid take snaps and throw the ball around at training camp? And then after a couple practices, I finally figured out that he was our backup quarterback, and we had a little playoff success in Cincinnati before I came out, and I figured, well, there goes all the playoff paychecks. So, as you all know, Dave was given the job as starting quarterback about halfway through Chuck Knox's first year there, and he led us down the stretch, won a couple really big games to get into the playoffs, and then obviously we went down to Miami for probably the biggest playoff win in the Seahawk history, and Dave did a hell of a job there. And actually probably more indicative of anything about Dave is that towards the end of the game, he threw an interception, and it would have been an easy time to tank and go home hurt, saying, oh, we almost got it done. But Dave came back. We had a 2-minute drive, went all the way down the field, and he threw a touchdown to Steve in the corner of the end zone in the very last couple seconds. And that's him. Thank you. I won't say anything else. But Dave did take some time to adjust to, because I'd been around some quarterbacks, Warren Moon in college, and then Kenny Anderson back in Cincinnati, who was the league MVP the year we went to the Super Bowl. They were big and strong and smart, composed, type of guys that were routine, predictable. They were the unemotional, just kind of the opposite of Dave. And
they were draft choices.
Yeah, they were high draft choices, yes. But Dave was anything but big and strong, but I'll tell you what, he was emotional, he'd lose control, he'd come snap right back into control. He'd yell at Chuck, which wasn't a real good career move, but they took a little while to figure that out. He'd yell at the receivers, he'd yell at the offensive line, he'd be sulking one second, he'd be happy the next. But what I really came to respect was he had a passion for the game. And although it took me some time to adjust to him, he finally taught me that you can play the game that way too and be successful. And I think that's, through his whole 19 years, that came through, is that he really enjoyed the doggone game. So he was anything but routine and predictable on the field, but off the field he was exceedingly routine and predictable. Same tavern after practice, same old style beer, same guys every night. We'd try to get him to go someplace else, and I don't want to go. You guys go, I'll go there. Same darts, same pool games, of which he was very competitive. But he was boring. Except around food, because we invited Dave and Sue over quite a bit to dinner at our house. And one time, Rachel, my wife's right over here, and she made a pasta and some chicken and stuff like that. And there were onions and peas in the pasta, kind of a middle 80s, the Alfredo, all type of stuff. And Dave just got up and left. Well, he'd come with a 12-pack of Old Style, first of all. That was kind of a given. But he came back about 20 minutes later, bag from McDonald's, 2 quarter-pounders, bag of fries, pushes the plate aside, and just sits back down and eats with everybody. So that's him. And then for my 30th birthday, Rachel did a surprise party. We went to Labuznik. I don't know if you guys remember Labuznik down by by Pike's Place Market. And Rachel ordered a bunch of appetizers, and they put down a steak tartare plate in front of Dave. Well, he eats it. It's the whole thing. And just doesn't even pass it around. That's him. Said it was pretty good. What was it? But early on, we figured out that Dave from Wisconsin was a real big NFL fan, and we tried our best to familiarize him with all the great defensive linemen in the league that were playing at that time. He got to know Howie Long and Bruce Smith and Joe Klecko. Those were kind of my introductions. And yeah, and Brian helped a little bit on that too. LT, Derek Thomas were kind of, you know, the
Thomas was a good friend of mine.
Ron Essink and
I got to know him well.
yeah, eight times, didn't you, one game or something like that? Yeah, I remember watching that game in Green Bay. It was after a game, and we were watching that. I was glad I wasn't there. As a matter of fact, he met these guys over 200 times just while I was playing. In those 6 years. So that's a pretty good percentage. And actually, he was so doggone thoughtful, he knew we were kind of, you know, down as kids kind of fans. So he helped us meet guys like Ronnie Lott and Mike Haynes and Lester Hayes and stuff. You know, 91 times, as a matter of fact, we were able to tackle those guys for him. And he also gave us a chance to, you know, offensive linemen kind of think they're athletes and they want to carry the ball and they think they ought to be playing standing up, but I was never able to play standing up. I always had to have my hand on the ground. And, you know, he helped us. 59 times he gave us a chance to pick up the ball and move around, you know, just when I was there. So a really thoughtful guy. And although it's kind of hard to figure out because the Dave Krieg website says different things than the NFL website does, but apparently he was somewhere around 10th on the all-time list, someplace around 10th on the completions list, about the same, 38,000 yards or 36 or 37 or something. A lot of them, yeah. 28 straight games with a TD pass, which is pretty remarkable, actually, especially with Brian and I helping him. 261 TD passes, 19 years, 200 plus games, 3 Pro Bowls, which is, I think, about 3 more than Brian and I got together. 199 passes intercepted, 153 fumbles, you all got, and the most sacked, which, sorry, Dave, I apologize for that. But I think the thing that's most remarkable, I went on the website today, 23 modern era quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame. And I think Dave deserves that honor, being number 10 on most of those categories. Did you guys buy that? Okay.
Yeah, that's good for me.
Okay. You have about the same chance I do. Thank you very much.
That's the very shy Blair Bush, ladies and gentlemen, very shy. We're going to keep this moving, and we've got only a few more, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, are you good? Everybody having a good time? Mariners won 7-2. We don't know what the Yankees or the Angels did. Doesn't matter. Whichever team beat the other one, that's good for us. Is that right? All right, we're in there. It's a Tuesday night in Mayberry. It's a typical summer day, all 4 seasons, every 20 minutes. Are we good? Are we layered up and ready to make it outside tonight? Good. Okay. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to bring to the stage. He was a star linebacker at Stanford. He was also a star linebacker for the Seattle Seahawks. And dig this, he was actually Brian Bosworth's roommate at one time. And you know, I love your roommate Bosworth, man. He stole my line about John Elway looking like Mr. Ed. I hate that part. I do, man. I hate it when they steal my jokes and don't give me credit. But it's all good, man, because you're here tonight, and your roommate Bosworth was in a movie called Stone Cold. In the movie, Bosworth played a biker who was an undercover cop, which was perfect, because for 3 years in the NFL, he played an undercover linebacker. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please welcome Dave Wyman.
So you know you got somebody good when you have to have parentheses saying that I slept next to somebody famous. Brian Bosworth. Thanks for mentioning that, Rob. You know, I hear a lot of people talking about Dave's, playing ability, and my idea is not to attack that because I think it's too personal. I'd rather go after Dave's annoying personality. That's really the thing. All of you saw how competitive Dave was. He would drop the ball, pick it up, throw a touchdown. He would, fight and scrap for every yard. And so you see that on the field, and you assume that
just takes place on the field, but it carries off the field so that he's that type of person 24 hours a day. I don't know if you guys saw him up here earlier. He's, what's the guy doing push-ups for? Why do we have that broom? Let's get this thing going. I'm like, Dave, you're not the freaking quarterback, okay? Just sit back. And I have to tell him that at my house all the time. He would come over. Dave, just let it happen. Relax. You're not the quarterback all the time. It's a pain in the ass. It's unbelievable. Dave and I would find, maybe it was me, but we would find ourselves in arguments over everything all day long. It was always about the competition. I remember one time very specifically, it would come down to the pronunciation of words. And now this is the guy that said the word catastrophic on television and then claimed he was misquoted. So one time, I think the word was debacle, which I'm sure we were talking about our careers or something, but I'm not going to say who was wrong and who was right, but I'll just say this. One of us went to Stanford, and one of us went to Milton College. And Dave would always get all freaked out about, oh, you think you're so smart because you went to Stanford? I said, Dave, relax. It's not that big of a deal. First of all, I'm the dumbest guy to ever go through Stanford. I went there because I thought they had a good football program. But what I would tell Dave is, look, it's no different than Milton, okay? The only difference is, number one, they didn't plow our college under and make a mobile home park out of it. And number two is that we don't have to have our class reunions at Chuck E. Cheese. So other than that, great, fine, good education, I'm sure. So Dave always had to have somebody to compete against, okay? So I ended up being that person. When I was single, I would go over to Dave's house, and he had Mikey and Matthew and Sue and, young family. So he couldn't go out. He wanted to go out all the time, but he couldn't. So I would end up over there to be Dave's tackling dummy, basically. He had to have somebody to compete against at all times. So I go over there, and this is the honest to God's truth. One time I pull up to Dave's house, knock on the door, and I walk in, and here's the scene. He has Sue's really nice furniture all pushed to the side of their living room, and at one end is a 4.5-foot high little kid basketball hoop. And on the other end is Dave just, dropping three-pointers down. And Sue is positioned next to the basket so she can rebound for Dave. And then the boys are off to the side with this sort of longing look on their face. Dad, when can we play? And of course, the answer to that question is as soon as Dad makes 20 in a row, okay? So I get to 17, he misses. He's got to start over. Sorry, it's out of my hands. Got to make 20 in a row. So finally, Dave would, he would drop the 20 in a row so we could sit down to Dave's favorite meal, which was macaroni and cheese with tuna and peas mixed in. It's a delicacy in Wisconsin, apparently. And all of this was washed down with 32 cans of the shittiest beer money can buy. Am I right?
You are right.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
Now, is this because Dave is cheap? No. Is Dave cheap? Yes. Okay, but no. It's just that he thought that spending more than $2 on a six-pack of beer was putting on airs. So I would show up with a Coors Light, and, oh, Mr. Fancy Stanford guy with a fancy beer. Had to be Old Milwaukee Best. Please. So then the evening's festivities would begin. We'd start off with Jeopardy, and Sue, poor Sue, once again had to be Alex Trebek. But I mean, if we got an episode that was like Shakespeare and French wines, forget it. It's done. Only like college nicknames and sports trivia. Okay, this isn't rocket science going on. These are two football players. Okay, so it would go from there. It would go to ping pong, pool, and then it would always end with cribbage, which is a card game with pegs. I don't know if you've seen it, but we would always play this game. And God forbid you were beating Dave at something, because then it's a long night. I mean, you're not leaving until he gets on the winning side. So finally, Sue would give me this look, give me a little wink or something. I'd be like, okay, I start sloughing off points to Dave. Okay, you won, Dave. Okay, got to go. It's late, it's 3:30. But Dave just always, like I said, just a pain in the ass, just constantly, always competing and just stubborn. And, it just so carried on to the field. I'll never forget, we were in Atlanta one year, and so Dave throws an interception to Deion Sanders. Now, that's not a crime, right? Because Deion picked off a lot of good quarterbacks. But being in Dave Krieg's body and thinking you could run down Deion Sanders, that's a crime. But let me explain. Dave, there was one guy on the team slower than Dave Krieg, and that was Stan Eisentooth, our backup center. You guys remember him? Stan's the guy that dated 2 different girls from the Burger King drive-thru up the street. Why that makes him slow, I don't know, but just go with me. He's slow. He was slow. Dave was faster than him, though. So I watched the pick happen, and everybody with good sense just walks off the field, but not Dave. So Dion, he goes flying past me. I'm standing there trying to enjoy a Gatorade, and because I'm on defense. So Dave throws this interception. Dion goes past me, and he's taking 1 step every 7 yards. About this much of his foot is touching the ground. I mean, he's like a gazelle going past me. He's singing and doing all this stuff. So I look back onto the field, and there's everybody with their head down walking except for Dave. And Dave is going to run down Deion Sanders. So you know how when you have little kids, if you have a little kid and a little kid's really trying to show his parents that he's running really hard, so he makes his arms go like this and just tearing up the turf. They had to re-sod after Dave was done. Just about the 20-yard line, he dives. Deion's already in the back of the end zone. You know, I said I wasn't going to talk about your athletic prowess, didn't I? I'm sorry, Dave. I couldn't resist. It's good. When I was in Denver, it was my second team, and Dave was in Arizona, his 17th team. We're getting ready to play each other. So in the media, Dave's down there, and he's, you know, I know exactly what he's doing. He's in the paper, and he's talking about, well, the Broncos have this linebacker, Dave Wyman. You know, he's comparing me to Dick Butkus. And people in Denver are reading the paper going, who the hell is Dave Wyman? And I'm looking at the paper going, shut up, Dave. You know, just can it, okay? I know what you're trying to do. So he's pumping me up in the paper. So we get out on the field, and Dave's out there, you know, and he's always, as tonight, going 100 different ways at once. And so he's out there calling his audibles, doing it all very effectively, getting the ball up. And in between, he's dropping Chuck Knox lines on me. And I mean, it was in the middle of the game. We're sitting here trying to, you know, and I'm trying to be serious. So finally, Dave, he throws out some audible, and they spread out. And I get kind of like this deer in the headlights look. And so I don't have an answer for it. And so Dave looks over at me like, So the play is snapped, and it's a running play. We throw it for like a 3-yard loss. So I kind of run to the pile at the same time. Dave comes up to me and goes, hey, had you with that one, didn't I? I saw the look on your face. Do you remember that? That's a true story. I'll tell you what, Dave, you know, I don't know, you probably know where I'm going with this, but that stubborn competitiveness seeped onto the field, and not always in the trying to run Deion Sanders down from behind way. But Kansas City in 1990, when we won that game, I know everybody knows where I'm going with that, sacked 7 times. Now, I know most people would give up after 3 sacks, 4 sacks, by the same guy, and the same part of your back, right between the 1 and the 7, right, Dave? And to still be able to make the play that he did, that's that stubborn competitiveness that we all loved about him. And that's why, you know, I would take Dave as my quarterback. I played with John Elway. I played with a lot of different good quarterbacks. And Dave, just because of that, even though he was a pain in the ass off the field, I would take that any day. And this is the part where I get to really embarrass Dave because he hates compliments. I used to go up to him during this, hey, Dave, that was a nice play. How would you know? You suck. And I'm like, okay, Dave, sorry. You know? How the frick would you know what a good play looks like? Like, okay, I don't want to argue, just trying to give you a compliment. Okay, bad play. But I'll tell you what, when I was in Seattle, those teams that we had when Dave was quarterback, the best teams that I've ever been on in the pro ranks, because just the camaraderie, and you know, when you have a really good team, the fact that your teammates, it transcends everything else. It transcends your race, your sometimes sexuality. I don't know if that was the case or not at that point, but where you're from in the country, those kinds of things. I mean, and we were a tight team. I mean, everybody hung out together. Jacob Green, Dave, and Dave was responsible for that. We all hung out together. Black guys, white guys, guys from the South, guys from the North, California guys, everybody. And I think that's the best compliment I can give Dave, is that he was a great teammate. I want to thank Mark and Rod for having this thing. I'm also, my sister-in-law is right now recovering from cancer, so it's a very special thing for me, very meaningful. And so I want to thank you for the opportunity. Thanks, Dave.
Well done, oh shy one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Dave to Dave. At this point, you've heard him on 950 KJR. He's known as the Graz. He is my friend. He is your friend. He is Dave Krieg's friend. Please welcome Dave Grosby.
Jesus, what a bunch of long-winded bastards you are all. I mean, we're like 45 minutes late. What the fuck? It wasn't that interesting. Yeah, get used to that, by the way. Chris Rock is in the house. What kind of a roast is this? And you don't like compliments? Don't fucking worry about a thing. None are coming. I wish Raible was here, although actually Steve Raible, I'm not being serious at all here. Actually, Steve Raible, for broadcasters, gives us hope. Anyone that ugly who can be a television news anchor, YouTube won't even run his stuff. They have standards. They won't run Raible stuff. But, you know, someone needs to tell him, someone here maybe if you see him on the street, tell him that mustache, even the porn guys aren't wearing that anymore. You know, Rod, someone needs to tell you that too, by the way. All right, what have I observed tonight? Dr. Albert Einstein, are you fucking kidding me? And how is it not that guy back there with the hair who looks like Albert Einstein? That's who I thought it was gonna be for sure. You look fantastic, sir. I heard Jerry Garcia before. I thought Albert Einstein made more sense. All right, what have we seen? Art Thiel, hi Art. Art, honestly, you're no good at this. Next time you're asked, say no, don't do it. You're not funny. You're just not funny. I know you try to be, you want to be, you over-chick big time like we all did. You got a great wife, but this is really not your thing. You're really just not as strong as I know you'd like to be. By the way, Mama Blue, nothing for you, darling. 76 years old, sweetest woman. I tell you what, Vinny's full of shit. You want to give me mouth to mouth, I'll take it anytime, baby. I don't have to be passing out for that. Vinny, you know, my brother, Vinny's the guy who went over and replaced me at Cairo ultimately when it came down to it. And then just as you heard, he got screwed by the Mormons. Hey, by the way, how does that work? Is it like 2 or 3 of them at a time that do it? Or is it just 8? I wasn't sure. Don't worry about Vinny, though. Don't worry about Vinny. He'll land on his feet just as soon as he can see them. I don't know what you're laughing at, Rod. If I may quote Dean Vernon Wormer from Animal House, forget this Shakespeare shit. Black, dumb, and stupid is no way to go through life, son. Eight years of college down the drain is right. But it really isn't, Rod. Honestly, you know, your stuff's no good anymore. You look good, but you've lost something. I don't know, it's the fastball, I don't know what it is. Maybe you just need to get a little bluer. I'm not sure, that might be it. Gas, it's all right, I'm done with you now. Gas. 15 years. Gas started as my producer. Then I went to Cairo, came back, and what has it been, 11 years now? I think 11 years we've been working together, and I will get serious for just a moment. I've hated every moment of it. It has been like torture every day to walk in. Torture. Could you once just shut the fuck up? Just once! You think I'm interrupting? I'm just trying to work something in edgewise, for the love of God. Oh, boy. Is this better, Dave? Okay, I'm not much longer. Blair Bush, if you'd only tell the truth, Blair. Dave, maybe I should ask you this. How many times did you actually, like, either hit the nads or grab his dick? Couple times? I mean, it had to happen a couple times. Yeah, small hands, but still, they gotta get under. I mean, the whole thing's gotta get under. I'll bet it was. Oh, and I didn't want to forget Brian Millard, who flew all the way here from Texas. Jesus, we couldn't have put him up here? He couldn't have sat up here at the dais with us? He's got to go out there. It's a hell of a flight, wasn't it? Thank Gary Wright for that. I'm sure that was Gary or Sandy's doing. Won't touch you guys either. Dave Wyman was very good up there. It's good to note that one of the courses not taught at Stanford is personality. But we never really thought it was. And by the way, doing your own show now and doing the pregame stuff on Cairo, that is Way to use that Stanford degree, buddy. That's just super. I mean, that is absolutely fantastic. I know Dave Krieg is sitting here next to me wondering the same thing I am and what many of you probably are right now. What the hell am I doing up here? Dave, it's true, you bet it's true, because Dave left in 91. I got here in January of 92 for the Dan McGuire era, the Rick Meyer era. And in looking around and seeing Brian out there and seeing Dave and Blair here, and knowing that Steve Largent was in town today, I'm sure you saw him over at the Seahawks, you just must not have been liked very much, huh? I mean, because none of those guys came. I mean, Blair has to come, because of the touching and stuff. And Dave is on the Cairo broadcast, wants you to do the huddle and whatnot. Brian got tricked into flying up here. I mean, where are the teammates? I don't know. Now, do you remember that we did a show together?
No.
Unbelievable. Not really. You were right, Gas. We did a show together, you dumbass. 3 or 4 years ago. Monday afternoon quarterback show. You remember now, kind of. It's actually, for me, it was kind of exciting because it was doing a show with a real quarterback, not Hugh Millen, but an actual guy who had played. Oh, if Hugh was here, I'd say it to his face. The guy who actually played in the NFL instead of just being in the NFL. But I mean, it was very exciting for me. Now, again, Dave was gone before I got here, but anyone who's a sportscaster, anyone who lives here knows Dave Krieg and see us synonymous. This was going to be great. Now, we're going to call him on the phone. He's going to be with us every single Monday, hence the name, the Monday Afternoon Quarterback Show. And it was really, I learned a lot from it. I think the thing I learned the most, and it was almost always the first question I'd ask, because it seemed to make the most sense with Dave being a quarterback and such a good one for so many years. It just made sense to start off the thing with quarterback play, of course. And I mean, I can hear it today, honestly. Because I was really surprised that 80 or 90% of the time, I'd ask roughly the same question, maybe crafted a little bit differently, but roughly the same question. And it would always be, I think John Kitna was the quarterback then, and ultimately it would end with, so Dave, what did you think of how John handled this situation? And I'd sit there like I knew the audience was, kind of hanging, waiting to hear what this guy played. 19 years, a guy who knows, a guy who earned it. Not a guy blessed with this incredible physical ability, according to your teammates, almost no physical ability. But a guy who would earn the whole thing, and I think he knows what's coming. And so I'd say, well, what'd you think of Jen? And I'd pause and I'd wait, and Dave's answer easily 90% of the time would be, well, Graz, I didn't see the game, but I heard he played well. That's a fact. You were living in Phoenix, except 2 or 3 times you called from Wisconsin when you were killing squirrels with a bow and arrow. Or was it rats or something like that? I know you hunt with a bow and arrow. And never knew. And I remember thinking, I don't know if this show's gonna make it. I don't know if this show's gonna make it. It did, though. It did. Much like you, I didn't really know what happened either. Yeah, I don't know what happened with me either. Mudbone, though. How did that help with the quarterback pussy, by the way? Oh, hey, these guys know what I'm talking about. Everyone knows quarterbacks get it differently. You get much more special, and that was good. I got what I was looking for, though. Oh, did he actually say that word? I mean, quarterbacks, you're traveling, right? They all want to meet the quarterback, doesn't matter who he is. And not like you're that ugly. I mean, not like Raible or anything like that. I mean, but I mean, what happened when they found out your nickname was Mudbone? Does that help? Did that hurt?
Rod Long's name would have been
Rod Long's name would have been better. I'm not really sure. Might have been better. Dave brought up the one thing that I was going to bring up too. My Dave Krieg story involves, of course, that game in 1990. Blair brought it up too, watching it in the locker room. For me, I was living in LA. The Seahawks didn't exist. In fact, I lived in Northern California for 9 years before that, and they didn't exist there either. You knew they had Jacob Green. You knew they were in Seattle. You knew they played in the Kingdom. You knew that the Raiders used to, when I was living down there and they were in Oakland, used to wheel out a jet engine for Seahawk Week just to get used to the noise in the Kingdom, but it seemed like this foreign thing. So I'm at a bar in LA, what a shocker, on a Sunday morning to boot, with my friend who was my partner at the time, who was from Kansas City. So the games, it's one of those, early on sports bars, 1990, not that long ago, but early on sports bars, the TVs are up, and there's a Giants game, it's on 3 or 4 of them, and these games are all on all the TVs. One small, maybe 6-7-inch TV behind the bar is the only one that's carrying the Seahawks Kansas City game, which was kind of odd. I mean, the LA Raiders, that's who they were then, same division, you would have expected more, but no, it's just in that one tiny TV. So as I'm talking to my friend and drinking, it seems like every time I look up, just what they said, the helmet in the back. And I'm like, I think Derek Thomas is having a giant game here. I'm not sure. And my buddy's like, I don't care. The guys are winning. It's good. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure he is. And then bam, bam. And I remember like the fourth or fifth time going, what the hell is this guy's problem? Throw the ball. Get out of the way. Hand it off. And man, you took hit after hit after hit. I mean, I didn't know who Paul Scansy was. Hell, I didn't know who Dave Krieg was. I barely knew who the Seahawks were. But man, Derek Thomas had you for number 8. There were 8 total. Derek only got you 7 times. He had you dead to rights on number 8. There he comes. I remember saying it to my buddy. There he comes. And I don't know where you got that sidestep from, but it was a beauty. And the touchdown pass to Paul Scansy. And I remember thinking, I had no idea it was coming up to Seattle or anything like that. But I knew that was a regular season game I'd never forget, because you don't normally see things like that. Now, in a very funny way, I'm sure a lot of people have said that about a lot of the things that Dave has done over the years. But it's that kind of connection. You say the name Dave Krieg here, it doesn't matter if he hadn't been here for 20 years. He means an awful lot to an awful lot of people. And he does, and always will. That never changes. You always get a second hometown, which I know is a great thing. And to be part of something like this tonight, I remember when we were first talking about this, there's just no way we could have possibly expected as many people we got if it wasn't going to be you, if it wasn't someone of your caliber. So thank you very much for that, Dave. Also to Mark and everyone, thanks for letting me be one of Jen's friends too. This is a night I'll never forget, and look forward to next year and the year after and the year after and the year after. Thank you, everybody.
That's Dave Grosby, and you know what, ladies and gentlemen, we've got envelopes at your tables. If you had a good time tonight, and especially if we comped you and you didn't pay, it's time for my Catholic guilt trip. I will do that, though I'm a recovering Catholic. We've got envelopes at the table. If you had a great time tonight, put a check, put cash to this foundation. It means so much to the people who have cancer and need help, other than the drama that they are already going through in their lives fighting cancer. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the man of the hour. It is our guy who was kind enough to subject himself to all of this abuse tonight, and I thought we really didn't throw him under the bus too bad. We had referee flags. Dave and I both had referee flags. I didn't have to throw a flag once. Neither did you, did you, man? That was a good thing, man. I thought it was a relatively simple Mayberry with skyscrapers style roast. Before we introduce Dave Krieg, here's some highlights of the man who I'm about to introduce.
Craig, couple of steps back, lost it in the end zone. Touchdown, Seahawks, the margin. They're going to play fake back to pass, throws to the end zone. Place has it, touchdown, Seahawks. Craig back to pass with time. Now the rush starts to get to him. Craig takes off, throws on the dead run. Touchdown, Seahawks. Back to pass. He's got back. He lets that guy deep down the left side. He's got Hayden from the building on his way down the sideline. They'll never catch him. Touchdown, Seahawks. Grant fumbles to snap. There's a snap.
Back down memory lane, ladies and gentlemen, the man of the hour. Without further ado, and he went to a college named after a monster on a cartoon, Milton. The old school people remember Milton the monster. And he's our guy. We are so happy he's here tonight on behalf of this foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, number 17, Dave Mudbone Krieg.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm used to people standing up in the Kingdom and not cheering like that. That was pretty warm and special. I know it's late. I know it's weary. There's a song like that. But I really appreciate this. I mean, for me to be honored like this is something else. And like I said, God, I know we didn't get many guys to come up here that were here, but when they found out it was free, they just left. Brian Millard came up for free and flew all the way from Texas. That means a lot. Gary Wright and Sandy are here. I know they have to go back to the Seahawks and figure out a way to not get beat 48-13 anymore. But Gary Wright is the PR guy for the Seattle Seahawks, and he's been a great friend of mine and helped me get a long way in this business. And Sandy Gregory and Paul Johns. If it wasn't for Paul Johns, I don't think I'd be here, because when I was a rookie, PJ came in. I think it was his my second year, but anyway, I threw a few passes to him in the preseason. I didn't have a clue what was going on. I mean, a lot of that stuff is true. I just figured out a way to win, and I'd throw some passes to Paul Johns. He'd take it and run in the preseason and turn a 10-yard pass into a 58, 60-yard touchdown. He did all the work, and I just got all the credit for it, kind of like the lineman, right? Some other people I'd like to mention real quick before I get started in this. I know it's late. I know this has been a long time. I've never been roasted. I've never really been to a roast, but we'll get the kinks worked out, I'm sure, somehow. We'll just have the guy quit sweeping a little bit quicker, right? But Mike Casey is from Milton College as well. He's not my attorney, just a good friend of mine. And when I came to this town of Seattle, Washington, all I knew was, here come the brides. You know, the bluest skies you ever saw, and the bluest skies you ever seen, and are here in Seattle, and that's true. And this is, I consider, my second home. But Mike Casey was from Milton, so I went to Cheney, and I flew on the plane, first time, that's true. I'd never flown on a plane before. My dad dropped me off at the Mosinee Airport and said, I'll see you in a couple of weeks. And I got here to Cheney, Washington, and Mike Casey wrote me a note. Hey, I'm Mike Casey from Milton College, and this is how much confidence he had. He says, if you need a job, maybe I can find you one in Seattle. So he didn't, he wasn't very optimistic either, just like my dad. But I've known him, I love him dearly. He lived in Madison Park, and that's where I stayed for my first 3 years. Slept on a mattress, on the floor, nothing else. That was it. I was pretty simple. And the macaroni and cheese stories, all true. That stuff, that's what I grew up in college. And so Mike Casey took me in, and Charlie Reynolds and Rabbits here, Ted Rogers. Without those guys, I was 20 years old, they were 35, so I got indoctrinated into a lot of things down in Madison Park, if you can well imagine. So I kind of grew up fast a little bit. And Jim Smith, my great friend, he did negotiate my first, well, actually I can't, it's a roast, I can say it. He negotiated my first signing bonus of $500. It was awesome, unbelievable. Actually, it was Mike Heavey, but that makes the story better. $365.85 after taxes. But I didn't care. That story Mama Blue said about my mom, that's true. I carried a football around when I was 5 years old. I used to watch the Packers. I did visualization before visualization was a big deal. I made believe I was Bart Starr, and they had Willie Davis, Willie Wood, Herb Adderley, Jim Taylor, all those. And I'd make believe, man, I was the Packers before the game. At halftime, we'd jump over, my brothers, we'd play tackle football in a living room, and then go out after the game was over, and I'm Bart Starr and Paul Hornung, and I made believe, and I kept seeing it, and that's all I ended up doing was being a football player, and it was awesome. And then I grew up, in a small town in Wisconsin. I'm very proud of that because I know PJ's here, and he grew up in, where was it, Wichita Falls, Texas, is that right, PJ? And then Bevo grew up in Dumas, Texas. I mean, come on. You can't make fun of my town if you come from Dumas, Texas. And so I grew up in Wisconsin, and there wasn't much else. I played sports. I did a little bit of school, but I played sports and I always wanted to compete. And I don't know how it took me here, but to go from Wisconsin, to come to Seattle and make it on the Seattle Seahawks, I called my dad up. I said, Dad, guess what? He goes, what? I said, I got great seats for the game, and they gave me a uniform. That's what I told him when I first got here. You walk by Rusty Tillman, the Turk, and he says, I walked, I'm like, oh my gosh, Steve Meyer got hurt, fortunately, and I worked my way up from 7th-string quarterback to the starting quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks. And all I remember in Cheney was the field was just awesome. I mean, in Milton, cornfields, we had them around us, dirt down the middle, just like my backyard. And they come out here, everything was nice. They washed your uniforms after practice. You had a new jock and everything. It was all cool, And it was amazing. And to have Herb Weisbaum here, Steve Raible, it was really pretty cool. Rabes has to get out of here. That's the fastest I've seen him move in a long, long time. The only guy I know in the history of the NFL to get hurt by a down marker. You know that it says 1 or 2. He got a punctured lung from a down marker. Of course, he was standing on the sidelines. He was trying to get out of the way, and down marker fell. He fell on it. And he had a punctured lung. That's why he ended his career. And that's how he ended up being what he's doing now. And God bless him for that. Rod, I want to thank you for emceeing this event. I understand you're a comedian, and I hope the transition from music went well. That song, I Like Big Bucks, was one of my favorites. That was awesome. I understand Rod's idol was Richard Pryor, but he didn't really want the name Dick Long, so he just stayed with Rod Long. So. I was told to read this. Gary Wright gave me this. It says, Graz, Gas, Dave, and Mike have asked me to read the following. A domestic partnership is a legal or personal relationship between individuals who live together and share a common life, but are not joined in traditional marriage or in a civic union. So happy anniversary. Thank you. All right, you're welcome. And then Vinny, watching Vinny come up here with all the heart attacks and everything, and he comes strolling up here and everything. I thought he was going to go, there's a man back there with oxygen tanks. I thought you were going to stop by and take some of his oxygen. I really thought you were. Testament to your character to make it up here. Our Teel, one of the big reasons the Times has won so many sports awards. You talk about, it's not quite true that we were in the bathroom together, Blair and I. I mean, we've been in the bathroom together, but we didn't actually do that. But in all honesty, a quarterback's favorite people are his linemen. And I've always, most quarterbacks now you see on TV, they'll throw a touchdown pass and they'll go to the receiver and, well, I wouldn't do it, but they help them do a dance or do something like that. It's all me, and I did this and I did that. After I threw touchdown passes, I'd go to the lineman all the time and just say, hey, good job, great job, do this. That was awesome. Because the guy caught the touchdown pass, all the cameras are on him, but they forget about the guys that really did all the work. And it's very similar to, we can go ahead and applaud there. I mean, he flew all the way from Texas. And the analogy is great because we had the doctors come up here and talk. It's funny, celebrities, actors and actresses, athletes get all the credit. But when you think about it, those people that do that stuff for cancer, the doctors that spend all the time looking in stuff and trying to figure out stuff so we can get a cure for, not only cancer, but, lupus, autism with Kurt Warner's kids and all kinds of stuff. They're the ones that deserve the credit, but they don't get it. So I give them a lot of credit because I always talk to people like that. It's a lot of perseverance to do something really good and not get a lot of credit for it. So I think we should applaud both of the doctors that were here. I know they get a lot of self-satisfaction by helping someone, and it's awesome. I understand what hard work pays off, and you don't get a lot of credit for it sometimes, but I think that's awesome. Mama Blue, you talked to my mom. I can't believe that. Yeah, some of that stuff is true, and most of it's not. But anyway.
Like I said, Dave, it's for sale.
Yeah, it is. That's some good stuff. But anyway, like I said before, it's been a long night, and I'm not going to stay up here very long, but Mike, I really appreciate you helping put this thing on, because when I called Raible up, it was about a week before this, and Mark, and I really didn't know Mark. He tells me these stories that we were drinking together in the parking lot. We were all together doing this, and at Swanee's, and I'm like, Mark Collins wants to put a roast on, and Rod Long. I never met Rod Long. I said, is that his real name? I said, you got to. And I didn't know all this, and he used all this material, and I'm like, how is this going to work? This is going to be another typical Dave Krieg production. I'm going to put my name out there and something. And when I walked out of the elevator, we were all upstairs in the room, and I walked out of the elevator and saw all those people. I'm like, this is really going to happen. And I was just flattered, humbled, and all that. But I was scared to death, and I called Raible up. I said, are there going to be just like some people up here and maybe 4 or 5 of my friends that I gave free tickets to, and that's it? That is the fear that I had. But then when I found out, and I think you all know this too, is what the foundation, the Jen L. Collins Foundation, and Fran, Jen's mom, is here. Could she stand up a second? There you are, right there. My mom was just diagnosed with cancer about 3 months ago, and so I can understand it. It's very, you lose somebody. I lost my dad 3 years ago. That's that's a tough thing, and to hear it, redone all the time. But this really means a lot, and I'm sure it's sad, but you got a lot of great memories, and you can just look around you and all the help you got, and Mark Collins and Rod for putting this thing on. So, there's not any more funny things I can say. Usually we do this stuff and we talk, and it's all real easy, and we just give and take. But I will say this. I guess Dave Wyman, he did get me pretty good, so I will have to say this. He's a complex guy, you know, a 4.0 student at Stanford, filled with rage as a linebacker, and now, whether you know this or not, he sells jewelry for his wife. And I think as you leave tonight, I believe he has some samples in his trunk. I don't know. But Dave Wyman and I did compete in a lot of different areas. He went to Stanford, and like he said, sports has the unique ability to bring out the best in everybody and the worst, but you still get along together. I don't care where you're from or what your religion is or what your color is or anything like that. Sports has done that. And I got to meet a guy from Stanford. I went to Milton College. He is a little bit smarter than me in some areas, but I got a lot of common sense. I know that. That's more than he's got. And then Blair Bush, I mean, he played in the Super Bowl. We didn't get a chance to do that, but I got to do with Kent Stevenson and some other guys, some linemen, but I don't mind telling you all right here that if I had a chance to do it again, I wouldn't mind putting my hands underneath Blair Bush's ass again. It doesn't bother me a bit. Sorry, Rachel. Okay, in closing with this thing, I mean, this has been more than it's flattering to come back here. I'm from Wisconsin, but Seattle I consider my second home. If I could come up here all the more, I would, but I got two boys. I got to make sure that they don't do all the wrong things I did when I was a young kid. You know, they're 19 and 17 now, and it's hard to believe that because, times have flown and gone by so quick, but this has just been amazing. And I want to thank Rod and Mark and the Westin Hotel, Natasha and Elizabeth James. They just did an unbelievable job putting everything together. So can you give the Westin a hand, please? And that impromptu dance that you saw, I'm not going to compete with Jerry Rice or Emmitt Smith or anything like that, but I'd like to thank Kat and Lori for walking me up here. Thank you very much. I mean, I should stand up here even more, but I know it's 10:30. We're supposed to be gone an hour ago, but I don't care. And they're giving me a nice room upstairs. I mean, I've come a long way. Mike Casey and I were at the Madison Park. We had 4 guys in that place, a fold-out couch. I had the mattresses that was on the floor. Nick had the nice room to himself, and now I get to come to these hotel rooms that are so nice. I remember my first time we flew on a chartered plane, and it's a true story about what Raible said. There was another story. Largent saw me with a clip-on tie. I didn't know how to tie a tie. I had no reason to wear a tie. I mean, at Milton we bust to every game, and I played baseball there too. But we bust every game, so I come here and fly on a plane. I'm like, oh my gosh. And when we take off, I look around, and I didn't know how to tie a tie, so I went to the first preseason game, and I thought, wow, I'm getting away with this. Second preseason game, the next flight away, and I was walking back, and Largent, everybody thinks he's this, Mr. born-again Christian, this role model. He had no problem humiliating me in front of the whole team. Now, when you're 30,000 some feet up there, and I walked by, and he noticed the clip-on was sticking out a little bit, and he just yanked it. He goes, he's got a clip-on tie, he's got a clip-on tie. You son of a bitch. That's what I want, that's Steve Largent for real. That's what I know about him. That ain't right. I don't care how many Bibles you read. That ain't right. Oh, yeah, and then I came here. We had Elmer and Kitty Nordstrom. I mean, greatest, unbelievable owners. I mean, they suffered, but they brought you guys, the Seahawks, brought them here. I know we had that one guy try to take everything away, but that's why Mark Collins got his name. You owe a lot to Ken Behring, Mark, standing in front of that truck like you did. I know you were glad to do it. You kept the Seahawks here. And Jack Patera. I mean, we owe him a lot too. I mean, he did a great job, and he kept me on the team, so I owe him a lot of gratitude for that. But this has just been unbelievable. And Dave Marshall came up here. That's right. I beat him in golf today, but I need to have somebody knew I could beat, so I called Dave Marshall up here from Portland to come on up. These guys have been around me through thick and thin. If you really wanted to know stuff about me and roast me, it can't be said on when it's being taped. They could say some things that you just would shake your head at, and God knows what else. But I've grown up a little bit, matured a little bit, but not too much. I'm still competitive. I still know that one thing, nothing works, whether it's for finding a cure for cancer or football, unless it's a team, unless everybody does it together and pitches in. And I know everybody put some money in today for this thing, but that's how everything works. You try as hard as you can. You help the other guy next to you. Somebody's feeling down, you pick them up. That's all I know. That's the way my dad raised me back in Wisconsin. It's real simple. I try to make life complicated sometimes, but for the most part, that's all I know. The competitive thing, I don't know. God cursed me and blessed me with that. but my dad taught me right. He was a farmer back in Wisconsin. He didn't play sports. He was a state patrolman, and he just taught me simple things. And that's how I like to try to keep it, is simple for the most part, and treat people with respect, treat them right. Hopefully you'll get the same thing in return. So with that all being said, to the Jen L. Collins Foundation, to Mark Collins, Fran, for giving us your daughter and, helping raise some money, Rob, people at the Westin Hotel, and everybody that showed up tonight. I mean, like I said, when I walked out of that elevator, I had a bunch of friends with me, and I was like, wow. I mean, this is just really awesome that I could be a part of this, and, if anybody else wants me to do something like this again, we'll make it shorter and just keep raising money, though. But Jim Smith, Mike Casey, Rabbit, Ben Bowman's here. He gave me all the beer when I first started off. I don't drink anymore because I drank my share all back then. But thank you very much, all the guys that are close to me, because they kept me going. Kid came here from Wisconsin, didn't know anything, and they helped me a little bit. So I really thank you very, very much. To get in the Ring of Honor was cool. Didn't know what to say then. And I'm not sure what I should say now, but thank you from the bottom of my heart. God bless y'all, and Fran, God bless you too. Thank you.
Dave, what I'd like to do on behalf of the Jennifer L. Collins Foundation is present you with a plaque. And this is our tribute to you tonight. On behalf of all of us with the Jennifer L. Collins Foundation. It says, the Ride Along All-Star Celebrity Roast 2007 Good Sport Award presented to number 17, Dave Krieg, in sincere appreciation of your contributions to Northwest sports and for your support of cancer patients in the Northwest. The Jennifer L. Collins Memorial Foundation. That is for you, Dave Krieg, on behalf of all of us this evening.
Thank you. Thanks very much, my brother. Appreciate it. Thank you. Very nice. Thanks. I'm going to give that to Fran.
There's one other thing I'd like to do, I've got to thank some people tonight, and especially a special thanks to our first Blue Table sponsor tonight, and that was Lori Bowden and Cowgirls Espresso, all the beautiful women you saw tonight. Work for Lori, Cowgirls Espresso. Thank you, Lori. Listen, on behalf of all of us tonight who are here, on behalf of this amazing woman who fought this disease for 2.5 years, we thank all of you. We will see you next year. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out tonight. Good night.
I hugged her and she hugged back. Like the sailor said, quote, ain't that a hole in the boat? My head keeps spinning. I go to sleep and keep grinning. If this is just the beginning, my life is gonna be beautiful. I've sunshine enough to spread. It's just like the fella said. Tell me quick, ain't love a kick in the head? Like the fella once said, ain't that a kick in the head? Like the sailor said, quote, ain't that a hole in a boat? My head keeps spinning. I go to sleep and keep grinning. If this is just the beginning, my life is gonna be beautiful. She's telling me we'll be wed. She's picked out a king-size bed. I couldn't feel any better or I'd be sick. Tell me quick, oh, ain't love a kick? Tell me quick, ain't love a kick?